A girl named Yorin was brought into the palace in the middle of the night and asked to spend the night with the crown prince, who had already been dead for a year. But when she held the prince's hand, she claimed she could see his soul. She said she could bring him back to life. Yorin had possessed a special ability since childhood. She could freely enter other people's dreams and directly communicate with their souls. Thanks to this gift, she had saved many innocent lives. She explained that the prince's soul had been trapped by vengeful spirits. If she could calm their resentment, she could retrieve his soul and bring him back to life. The queen then ordered that Yorin be brought to the palace daily to help soothe the spirits surrounding the prince. As Yorin continued to appease more and more spirits, the prince's complexion gradually improved. Eventually, in a dream, she found his soul. But instead of simply rescuing him, the two fell in love inside the dream. Soon, the spirits were all gone, and the prince recovered completely. The queen was deeply grateful and rewarded Yorin with great wealth. However, this sudden fortune sparked jealousy among her neighbors. Even people she had once helped began gossiping behind her back, calling her a witch and accusing her of seducing the prince. Rumors quickly reached the queen's ears. To protect the royal family's reputation, she ordered that Yorin must never see the prince again. Still, the prince would secretly sneak out of the palace to meet her in private. One day, Yorin's mother sensed something bad was about to happen. She made Yorin switch clothes with her and urged her to flee that very night. Before Yorin left, her mother gave her a family heirloom. Yorin escaped the city with the heirloom. But just as she fled, her house caught fire. Unable to rest easy, she rushed back, only to find her mother had been fatally stabbed. She realized her mother had died shielding her from danger. Devastated, Yorin went to the nation's guardian shrine. There, she cursed everyone who had slandered her. After casting the curse, she hanged herself at the shrine as the heirloom fell to the ground. Her resentment turned into a blazing fire that engulfed the entire shrine. In the afterlife, Yorin appeared before the god of the underworld. She said her actions had destroyed the shrine protecting the country, weakening its strength, allowing enemies to invade, and resulting in the death of 100,000 citizens. She should have been cast into hell. But because of the good deeds she had done while alive, she was given a second chance to return to the human world and help fulfill the regrets of those 100,000 souls. But Yorin refused. She said she'd rather stay in hell than help such ungrateful humans again. However, when she saw the real reason for her punishment, she quietly accepted the judgment. So, she returned to the mortal world and set up a small roadside stall. Using her power to enter dreams, she began helping people resolve their inner troubles. 500 years passed. She was just 10 souls away from completing her task. But modern people are not so willing to open up about their pain. The god of the underworld assigned a ghost squad leader who worked undercover in the police force to supervise her. Meanwhile, a malicious ghost appeared nearby, staring intently at her. Another person had a strange power. Everyone who touched him would involuntarily speak their inner thoughts. While this might sound useful, it caused a lot of trouble for Kongbe, who worked at a supermarket. That he often found himself in awkward situations, like when older women fought over eggs. To him, it was a nightmare. His manager frequently scolded him for chatting too much with customers instead of focusing on his work. But that wasn't even the most embarrassing moment. One day, an old classmate invited him out. Kongbe, who didn't have many friends, was genuinely happy. But when they met, the classmate wouldn't even shake his hand. He said he'd been feeling lonely due to work stress and wanted to talk to his best friend. As they chatted, someone accidentally bumped into him, spilling a drink on him. Kongbe quickly offered a tissue and asked if he was okay. The classmate suddenly blurted out that he wasn't okay. He admitted that if he hadn't been desperate, he wouldn't have reached out. He said Kongbe was the only fool who would come running just because of a phone call. Everyone else could tell from the tone of his voice that he was trying to sell them something. Kongbe realized the classmate's true motive. Still, he smiled and said it was fine. He was just happy to see an old friend. But the classmate coldly replied, "Who said I'm your friend? You're just easy to manipulate." Kongbe sat alone at the bus stop, lost in thought. He saw his colleague standing by the roadside. Although she clearly noticed a truck from Shirlai in the distance, she kept walking in the middle of the road. Kongbe, strong and quick, rushed over and stood in front of the girl, to show her gratitude. The girl decided to invite Kongbe to eat at a nearby roadside stall. But they didn't know that the female owner of the stall, Yorin, was actually a ghost who had lived in the human world for 500 years. She specialized in helping people resolve their troubles. Yorin was close to reaching her goal of helping 100,000 people, but she was still 10 short. Unfortunately, her recent performance had been slipping. She had even been given an ultimatum. If she couldn't reach her goal within a month, she would never be able to reincarnate. Seeing the lost girl, Yorin tried to comfort her, but the girl was unwilling to share her worries. However, Yorin unexpectedly discovered that after meeting Kongbe, the new girl gradually became more willing to speak out. But unexpectedly, the girl fell into an unfortunate state. He tried to wake her but accidentally crossed into her dream. There, he saw the manager holding a knife, threatening a woman. Kongbe quickly intervened, using a shopping cart to knock the manager unconscious. Only then did he realize the woman was the roadside stall owner. His presence surprised Yorin, who hurriedly asked why he was also appearing in the girl's dream. Kongbe was puzzled too. Moments ago, they had still been eating at the roadside stall when suddenly the ghost captain appeared and explained, "We are spirits sent by the gods to help those with unfinished business. You might be spiritually gifted or have a special constitution that allows you to enter here. Your colleague, Wheelju, often gets harassed by the manager at work, but she doesn't dare report him." At that moment, the feigned unconscious manager suddenly woke up. They chased after him. Yorin pulled out her hairpin and threw it directly at the manager, kicking him hard to teach him a lesson. However, he showed no remorse and tried to escape, only to be grabbed by the ghost captain and scared out of his wits. Meanwhile, Wheelju, still asleep, was struggling within her own mind, terrified of those buried memories. She was afraid others would find out she had been harassed by the manager. But through Kongbe's patient persuasion, she eventually overcame her fear and courageously opened up. Yorin also moved one step closer to her goal of helping 100,000 people. The next day, Kongbe woke up thinking everything that happened the night before was just a dream. But when he went to the supermarket, he found that Wheelju had truly overcome her difficulties and had reported the harassing manager to her superiors. He then went to the rooftop and really found Yorin, along with the hairpin she had thrown away last night. He was now certain that everything from the previous night was not a dream. Carrying the hairpin, he found Yorin, and the two reached an agreement. Kongbe would use his supernatural ability to help troubled people open their hearts, while Yorin, after completing her goal of helping 100,000 people, would help Kongbe close his spiritual eye so he could live a normal life. What is it like to have a coworker with supernatural abilities? Kongbe approached Jindong and simply patted him on the shoulder. Jindong, unable to control himself, revealed his inner secret. Today was his girlfriend's birthday, but he was so broke he didn't even have money to take her out to eat. Faced with the expensive prices, he had to pretend he had a stomach ache. To make things more awkward, he ran into an old classmate outside the restaurant. The classmate said it had been a long time and suggested they gather, but Jindong was afraid to pay the bill and didn't know how to respond. Fortunately, his kind girlfriend noticed and quickly helped explain. The old classmate was already a formal employee at a state-owned company, but Jindong was still working part-time in a supermarket. To give his girlfriend a better life, he had been taking civil service exams for 3 years. Despite excellent interview performance, he originally thought he would definitely pass this year, but he still received a rejection notice. Ironically, the son of a congressman who had done a perfunctory interview was accepted. When Jindong tried to find out why he failed, he was treated as a troublemaker and rejected. To help Jindong uncover the truth, Yorin gave him a mysterious liquid to drink. While Jindong slept, she entered his dream and discovered that on the day of the interview, the congressman's son had performed poorly, giving only perfunctory answers, yet received high praise from the recruiter. It was obvious that the recruiter and the congressman were colluding. To find evidence of their collusion, they decided to split up. Yorin disguised herself as a waitress and had the recruiter drink her mysterious liquid. In the recruiter's dream, she created an environment too. She pretended that his office had been broken into. Panic-stricken, the manager soon discovered that the office was indeed robbed. He immediately climbed up the bookshelf and took out a USB drive from a book. Seeing the USB drive still there, he breathed a sigh of relief. This must be the evidence of their collusion. But just at that moment, the manager was unexpectedly woken up by his bodyguard. The two, feeling something was off, immediately returned to the company. Meanwhile, Wheelju told the manager about the secret on the USB drive. The manager disguised himself as the manager and, along with Kongbe, went to the real office to search for the USB drive. However, just as they got the USB drive, they were blocked in the office by the manager who had returned. The manager focused his spiritual energy, attracting all the security guards, and was chased out. But the bodyguard Unju still found Kongbe hiding behind the door. With no chance to escape, Kongbe decided to use his supernatural ability to put Unju into a deep trance state. He grabbed Unju tightly, but strangely, Unju was unaffected by his power and instead pinned Kongbe to the ground and rubbed him harshly. When Unju learned that the USB contained evidence of collusion between the manager and a congressman, she still handed over the USB to Kongbe, allowing him to successfully expose the truth. In the end, Jindong was successfully hired with first place in the recruitment, but Unju was no longer allowed to work as a bodyguard due to his act of letting Kongbe go. Kongbe then became a security guard at the supermarket but was hiding a huge secret within him. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth with a handkerchief and quickly put it into her pocket, afraid her daughter might see it. After uncovering the truth, the woman was labeled a murderer and was to be driven away. It turned out she and her sister used to run a small shop together and had a close relationship. One day, a truck driver entered their lives. The woman fell in love at first sight and cared for him deeply, but she didn't know that he actually liked her sister. Not long after, she received news that the man wanted to marry her sister. Filled with rage, she covered her anger by putting on thick makeup every day, living like a madwoman. Later, her sister gave birth to a daughter, but she never visited due to jealousy, spending her days drinking alone. One day, drunk, she whispered to her naive brother-in-law that the child might not be his. When she realized her mistake and tried to explain, it was too late. The man, in anger, drove away with the mother and daughter. Her sister died in a car accident while chasing after them. She lived burdened by deep guilt and dared not tell her daughter the truth. She never expected a drunken remark to cause such severe consequences and now only wished to find her brother-in-law before she died to apologize. This reminded Wheelju of the village officials who had betrayed her and caused her family's ruin. She felt the woman deserved her fate and refused to help fulfill her regret. Soon, the woman fell seriously ill and was hospitalized. Kongbe looked at the poor mother and daughter and decided to steal Wheelju's sacred water to help the woman fulfill her regret. However, the sacred water was accidentally taken by the woman's daughter, and Kongbe, entering the dream, was terrified. Fortunately, Wheelju soon realized that in the daughter's memories, the woman was not evil but had been bullied by others to protect her daughter. The woman's love moved Wheelju, but the woman passed away due to illness. Wheelju hurriedly stopped the messenger of the underworld and explained the situation. To prevent the woman from becoming a restless spirit, the messenger gave her 2 days. Soon, the ghost captain used underworld connections to find the man's location, but he had lost memories of his wife and daughter due to overwhelming grief. To help him recover his memory, Wheelju and the others entered the deepest part of his consciousness. Using his daughter's birthday, they unlocked the long-buried memories. At the woman's funeral, the man revealed the truth to his daughter, and they both chose to forgive her. Wheelju handed over the woman's soul to the underworld messenger at the agreed time. In the end, the woman met her sister's spirit. Her sister never resented her and was grateful for raising her daughter. All misunderstandings vanished the moment they embraced. The man was sentenced to be reincarnated as a chicken in his next life. However, just as he was about to reincarnate, he unexpectedly entered the body of an uncle, who was a top wealthy tycoon. The man had once been a gambler who racked up huge debts and even alienated his relatives and friends. When he tried to borrow money from his best friend, the friend notified his debt collectors. While fleeing the city, the man died in a car accident and went to the underworld. The judge said that because of the material damage he caused in life, the man would have to reincarnate as a chicken to bring happiness and joy to others. Originally, his memory should have been erased. Due to the negligence of the king of hell, the man returned to the human world with memories of his past life, now with the identity of a wealthy tycoon. The first thing he wanted to do was to take revenge on his former friend. He bribed his old debt collectors and then ruthlessly destroyed his friend's shop. Ju and the ghost captain clearly arrived at the place where the man was reincarnated, ready to erase his memories. However, Kongbe discovered that this place was actually the mansion of the chairman of the Tide City Association. They also learned from a bystander that the man, during reincarnation, had coincidentally encountered the chairman who was collecting eggs, causing him to fall and lose consciousness. Taking advantage of this, he entered the chairman's body. To erase the man's memories now, he must first willingly leave the chairman's body. But how to get close to the chairman? This gave Kongbe an idea. Tide City was preparing a dance competition. If he could win first place in the competition, he would have the opportunity to approach the chairman. So Kongbe began practicing hard to win the competition. However, this caused a misunderstanding with his partner Ju, who thought Kongbe wanted to win for his sake and developed feelings for him. Eventually, with Ju's help, Kongbe and Ju successfully won the competition. During the dinner with the chairman, Kongbe took the opportunity to slip him the sacred water. In the dream, Ju showed the man the real situation. It turned out his friend never betrayed him but used her own wedding money to pay off all his debts, which caused his girlfriend to leave him. Seeing his only friend nearly ruin her life to help him out of trouble, the man was deeply remorseful. He finally let go of the money that had once meant everything to him and agreed to be reincarnated again. Meanwhile, an evil ghost that had escaped from hell killed the police officer chasing him. His next target was the street stall owner Ju. He quickly put on his dream gear to avoid the ghost's gaze, but the ghost came right up to him. Recently, Kongbe has been seeing vengeful ghosts more frequently. Many ghosts come to him asking for help, and frequent contact with spirits worsened Kongbe's health. So, Ju and the ghost captain decided to help him close his spiritual eye early. But when they entered Kongbe's dream, they found the spiritual eye control gate wouldn't open, with a permanent closure notice posted. They went to the relevant department to plead for opening the gate, but the staff said it was a new decree from heaven, and no one could open it. However, if they could find the silent face boar, it might save Kongbe's life. Ju immediately remembered that her mother once told her that the silent face boar was an ancient spiritual creature full of positive energy, capable of exorcising demons, averting disasters, and curing illnesses. But it had been destroyed hundreds of years ago and was now reincarnated. Helpless, Ju sought out the shaman in charge of reincarnation to ask about the whereabouts of the silent face boar's reincarnation. Unexpectedly, the shaman's answer rekindled her hope. The shaman said the silent face boar had reincarnated into a girl, and if Kongbe could win the girl's true love, he could break his special condition. When Ju asked about the girl's whereabouts, the shaman said it was a divine secret that couldn't be casually revealed. That night, the ghost captain suggested telling Kongbe the truth, but Ju had other plans and asked the captain to keep it from Kongbe for now. Unfortunately, Kongbe overheard their conversation upon returning. Feeling betrayed by those he trusted, Kongbe angrily left. The next day, the shaman found Kongbe and told him the truth. She explained that Ju was not a selfish ghost who used others arbitrarily. She had never expected to reincarnate again and had spent 500 years helping people resolve their regrets, all to save her own child. Back then, she had hanged herself in the shaman's hut, unaware she was already pregnant with the child she shared with the prince. The destroyed shamanic ritual had infused all her sorrow into the child's soul. She had lived in loneliness and pain until the sorrow dissipated. To help Kongbe find the silent face boar, she voluntarily gave up the chance to reincarnate and took responsibility for revealing divine secrets. Even if she completed the quota of helping 100,000 people, she would still be cast into hell. That night, she planned to meet the ghost captain and return to the street stall together. But no one noticed that behind them, an evil ghost appeared. Today is the day of the crown prince's grand wedding. But the one who's most unhappy is the crown prince himself. Suddenly, he orders the ceremony to stop and instructs the world security to arrest his once most trusted minister, Yuanzi. This is because not only did he plan a rebellion, but on the very night the crown prince was preparing to propose to the girl he loves, the girl's family was destroyed, and the crown prince approaches Yuanzi, asking why he targeted an innocent mother and daughter. Yuanzi's words hit the crown prince's deepest pain, and in a fit of rage, he beheads him on the spot. Then he goes alone to the tree where the girl had hanged herself, looking at the ring he never got to give. The crown prince is overwhelmed with grief and eventually follows the girl in death. What Yorin never expected was that the ghost captain she spends every day with was actually the crown prince she once deeply loved. She finally couldn't hold back her tears. The ghost captain, who had escaped after preparing the ring for 500 years, finally places it on Yorin's hand. The only goal for these reunited two is to quickly complete their mission of helping 100,000 people to resolve regrets and to atone for the curse on their child. With only one person left to help, the minister, possessed by Yuanzi, shows a murderous gleam in his eyes. He grabs Yorin by the neck, intending to kill the woman who ruined his loyal cause. Kongbe bravely steps forward to stop him, but is pushed aside by Yen Nua's dark power. Just then, the ground shakes violently. Kongbe stands firm like a divine pillar. The minister attacks again, but Kongbe easily deflects every strike. Closing his eyes tightly, Kongbe delivers a palm strike that pushes Yuanzi's spirit out of the minister's body. Realizing he cannot defeat Kongbe, Yuanzi transforms into a black mist and escapes. Kongbe then collapses and faints. Looking at Kongbe unconscious, Yorin finally realizes that Kongbe is the cursed child from back then. To make up for the warmth Kongbe has missed all these years, Yorin gently places her hand on Kongbe's face and creates a beautiful dream of a happy family life for them. Though it's just a dream, Kongbe smiles happily. However, Yuanzi, who still cannot let go of his hatred, tries to strike Kongbe again but is ultimately subdued by Yorin and the ghost captain and thrown into a bottomless time vortex. Because Yorin failed to complete the goal of helping 100,000 people in time, she voluntarily goes to the god of the underworld to accept punishment. Even though only one person was left, she's willing to be cast into hell. But the god of the underworld says that although she did not complete her mission, she managed to resolve the long-standing resentment of the divine curse and has repaired her own regrets. Therefore, he decrees she can be reincarnated. However, before that, she must return to the human world with the ghost captain to accompany Kongbe through the rest of his life. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and drop a heart for encouragement.